We are live. We are live. Welcome once again to the Sacred Relationship Lab with men's coach Stacey Taylor and me, self-love and sacred relationship coach Joanne Webb, otherwise known as the Happiness Hustler. Yay, we've got some other juicy questions to ask today. It's so exciting.
Yeah. I've got a good one here. Quite a really interesting question. So yeah, it's good to see them coming in and good to see people starting to interact and throw their questions out there for them to get some insights on. Because as Joanne and I were just talking off camera, it's in the blind spots that our the magic is. It's in the blind spots where we can actually transform and change our life, but we've got to have that courage to go there, and that often is just reaching out for a question. You just don't understand the power of bringing something that you're afraid to look at or share or ask to the table, because it gives you a level of freedom you just can't understand until a little bit later down life on your journey, eh?
Yeah, and I think what happens with relationships, the same with life. Things don't just go from being good to bad. There's a process, and things happen along the way, and we don't connect the dots. And all of a sudden, we might be in a relationship which this is happening, that's happening. We don't really know where to start. We don't know how to unravel it. We don't know how to get it back on track. We try things that fail, and it feels like a really lonely journey. So I think this is all about trying to make it less scary, less lonely, and hopefully provide some insights from the jobs that we do and the journey that we've both been on. Because as Stacey and I just said off camera again, sometimes it's dark. Sometimes it's
Oh,
still dark, but we're doing it. We're still here. We're still thriving.
yeah. Once you get pulled into this journey of awakening to consciousness, it's like I said to Joanne, you get on the roller coaster, you can't get off.
You're upside down.
There's no, oh, I don't want to go on this ride anymore. It's you're all in, and some days it's going to take you into a place that'll seem really, really dark, lonely. You won't want to be here. There'll be all sorts of things going on, but it's all perfectly set up for you to awaken to who you really are at the core of your soul. And having some support along the way is one of the biggest keys to freedom. Find someone who's a few steps ahead of you on your journey and reach out to them, ask questions, sponge up what you can off them. Especially if you feel called, or there's a reason, you resonate with that person's message.
Yeah, here. Should we dive straight into a question? I've got a couple
Yeah.
today, so I'll go for one, then you do yours, and I'll do mine. Let's do it like that. So today, the first question is from a woman, but doesn't really matter because this works both ways. But it says, I feel like I give more than I receive. I would love to receive more. What should I do?
Oh, this is a beautiful question, because this is something I've been working through in my own life too. So the first thing is there's a part of you that's not open to receiving. You're giving, but it's conditional. And this is when I speak to the unconscious. So whatever we feel like we're not getting, we don't want it at some level. We don't actually want it at some level. And what you're actually recreating is the way you felt as a child with your parents. It's never enough. You can never do enough. And no matter what you give, you can never get back what you're seeking externally. So for me, is just start to look at what's driving you to give. And is it unconditional? Is your heart open as you're giving? Or are you expecting not to receive in return? And I speak to this from personal experience, because when your heart's wide open and you're giving from a place of love, not needing anything, you'll always receive it back. It's universal law. But the way that our ego sets it up is to prove true whatever context we believe about ourselves at a core level, right? So if you do the work and you're giving to someone and you know that, you know what, man, they're not meeting me where I'm meeting them, then this is a different conversation where you go, you know what? You have a conversation with it, you put your boundaries in place, and you action what you need to honor yourself. But I can almost guarantee there's a part of you that doesn't want to receive in some way, shape, or form.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I totally agree. And I think this was posed by a woman. I do feel, I don't know if this is your experience, Stacey, but I do think there's a lot of women out there who are frightened to receive. Do you see that in your work?
If I'm honest, Joanne, I've been frightened to receive.
Hmm.
I've been so afraid to open up for fear of being hurt.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I can't receive because I'm closed off wanting to receive. I think I shared this in one of our earlier lives. I used to always say to my wife, shit, I just want you to love me like you used to. She used to look at me with this weird look. I knew what I meant. I knew. And then one day I had this huge realization. Fuck, you don't even love you the way you used to. She's a mirror of you. And as soon as I started to work on myself and take down, it's that quote that they say, it's not our darkness that most frightens us, it's our light.
Mm-hmm.
We're so afraid to shine our light just in case we get hurt. So we're just testing, we're almost testing the waters. If I give to you, will you give to me? Nah, see, I can't fully open to you.
It's a protection mechanism at the end of the day. That's exactly what it is. You know, your words were, I couldn't receive because I'm frightened to be hurt. So what we do is unconsciously, we build a wall around our heart and we expect not to receive because it's much easier to put yourself in that position to fight off the receiving because then you're not disappointed. But what are you all the time? You're constantly disappointed and you are constantly hurt. And that's why protection around our heart, no matter what we're fighting off, never works because we end up hurting ourselves more than we could possibly ever imagine. And all of this work we talk about, this inner work, it's really to put us on that path where we can live a vulnerable life. And knowing that we still might get hurt, but the hurt is in such a different way when we can live in pure vulnerability and we can allow ourselves to receive. I'm like you, Stacey, for a long time, I couldn't receive. And actually, I get given a word every year from Source. This year, where my word was pure, I've already been given my word for next year and it's receive. It's received. So all of next year, and it's already happening because the energy is already coming in now for 2025. The energy is around us. It's already going receive, receive, receive. I've just been for a healing today with my healer, and she said to me, I love that you walk in and you're ready to receive. Holy shit, 3 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's something that the energy is changing and I've been working on from a very conscious level to go, I'm the one stopping myself from having everything I want in this world. It's me. So, and as you said, and when we give, I used to give from ego.
Yeah.
I gave from ego. I gave, because also, again, that was a pattern of behavior. I'm just going to give and I'm going to keep giving because once I give, I'm worthwhile. I'm worthy if I'm making the dinner. I'm worthy if I'm preparing smoothies for the entire family. I'm worthy if I'm picking up everybody's shit off the floor. Take all of that away. And that's scary. Take it away. Take away all the things that you do. And then when we can give from a place of vulnerability and heart, it's much less depleting.
I got goosebumps with everything you just shared because it couldn't be more true. You know, if our own parents can hurt us, anyone can hurt us.
Exactly.
And we close off and we recreate our childhood to see where we're not free. It's such a beautiful question this person's brought to the table because it's what I've been going through over the last few weeks. You know, like Joanne and I shared, we're both still doing our own personal work. But at a deep core, there's a fear of being abandoned. There's a fear of being betrayed or rejected or humiliated. And the ego loves to prove that true over and over and over and over until one day you go, fuck, that's a lie. And then you start looking at it. And for me, over the last week is to realize the lie of the ego is that I can be abandoned for me, that I can be alone. This has been playing out since I was like a young boy. And now once you can really see through the lies of the ego that, fuck, I'm never alone. That person may leave me. I may break up from this. That might happen. But I'm never actually alone. But the ego is such a insidious trickster. It's like the Joker on the Batman movie. It's telling you to look over here and the real truth is right over here. So what I would share is just maybe start to look a little bit deeper around why you can't receive.
Yeah. It's a good thing to really journal on, isn't it? To sit there and say, what am I most fearful of? What frightens me the most about receiving? And for me, I think at one point it was my lack of worth, because if I was to just receive, I didn't know what to do with that. I just
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it. Like if somebody was just to start giving me everything, and especially because my second marriage was really abusive, he gave and gave and gave, but it wasn't in the right spirit. It was at a very high cost. When you get given from a narcissist, it was from a very high cost, and it's very cleverly done and very much manipulative. And so when you trying to find your place of receiving, what does that even look like? What does that even look like to you? And does your partner even know about you? Do you know what it is you want to receive? These questions are so important to start answering for yourself. What does it even look like? Is it you want your partner to get up in the morning and make you a nice cup of tea and bring it to bed? Is it you want a back rub? Is it you just want to be seen, heard, and cherished? What does it even look like?
Yeah, and a really powerful thing is to understand what gives you the sense of safety with your nervous system while you're healing.
Mm,
Maybe, like Joanne said, it's physical touch, maybe it's being held. Just notice what is shutting down your nervous system and what is actually bringing you into a state of calm connectedness to yourself, because in that state you'll be able to receive.
mm,
And we have to understand that as human beings, we've never been built to live in the modern society that we're living in. This is why we're having to evolve our consciousness. You as a human being were only built to survive and reproduce. Those are the number two needs, the two needs of the human being. So whatever your environment that you grew up in, your ego figured out what were the threats to you, and that's all it cares about. And it's going to keep recreating them and saving you from them, and recreating them and saving them from them, you from them. But because we have social media and we can see that influencer and we can see that person living this blissful life, we're like, fuck, why can't I do that? It's because your identity doesn't align to that yet.
yeah.
You've got to, I say you're already perfect. You've just got to remove what's in the way of you receiving abundance.
Yes. Powerful stuff. Powerful.
Beautiful
I think we
question.
could actually talk about this topic for a long time, but I feel like as the listeners, if you want us to fine tune our answer, come to us, because we could really talk about this topic for a long time. So come back with some extra questions and we'll happily go in deeper and we'll answer them for you.
Yeah, and let us know if that helped. Or like Joanne said, oh man, can you expand on this or that? Because, we can go quite deeply into it in an area that you want us to, because, these are our lived experiences. This is what we're sharing from our own lived experiences.
Mm. What's the
Beautiful
next
question.
question, Stacey?
Yeah, so I got a good one in from a woman. What if the relationship is great, everything I've always wanted, but the passion, the sexual part of it is mechanical?
Mm. Well, if that's mechanical and if that's the only issue, that can definitely be worked on with courage. I think that's an area we're so frightened of. And I see so many people who are switched off sexually. They think they're having great sex because they stick it in and they do it, or they let it be stuck in them and they do it, whatever. But sex is a sacred act. Our bodies are sacred. How comfortable are you with your body? And I'll ask that to the person even asking the question. How really comfortable are you with your body? How comfortable are you in your sexual needs? Do you even know what they are? Ask these questions. Are you prepared to go and have a little bit of fun and try new things? Because there's a lot that you can do that makes it very non-mechanical. And it's even like, even the things that you and I have talked about, like going on a date, which is somewhere different, to put yourself in a different frame of mind, a different, different sensory experiences. And, maybe take sex away from the bedroom at night when you go to bed, maybe take that off the table and do it somewhere else. You've got to mix it up and think about it. There's so many avenues you can go down if you're prepared to have the courageous conversations and talk about it. And if you're saying that your relationship's great and I'm assuming you can communicate about these things. But, I suppose if it's mechanical for one, but and the other person thinks it's great, you might hurt their ego a little bit when you first start talking about it. So it's like, go in with the, I love you, I love our relationship. However, I'm just feeling like, I want to spice things up a little bit. Speak from your heart, not from anything's going wrong. That's how I'd probably address it originally.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to take it slightly down a different path.
Mm-hmm.
If a man, you see, we're relating through our nervous systems. This is the thing that most people don't understand. So your body is reacting in the sexual experience or encounters through your nervous system. So if his energy isn't right, a woman is not going to be able to open. It's just not going to happen. And this is why I keep speaking about men needing to heal, because every single man on the planet, unless they had a rite of passage, is stuck in their childhood wounding. So they're emotionally unsafe, right? Now, this is why when you get into the relationship, there's so much intensity, and why the sex is so wild and so frequent and so free, because that absence of the childhood wounding that I've spoke to on many of this, it allows us to open freely. And when we open freely, we can receive freely, right? So what you've got to do is start to realize that if you're not able to open, of course, do your own work, look at your own issues on that, or your own side of that. Have you been through some things that have shut you down? Have you got some things that are going on? But if a man is emotionally safe, the woman that he's with will feel emotionally safe. And if she feels emotionally safe, she will open in a way that most men have never experienced. You won't be able to keep your hands off him if he's a truly healed masculine man. And so this is why it comes back to, especially the men out there. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, you guys haven't really experienced sexual energy on a soul level. Not many people have. It is all mechanical. It's all about getting something. For men, it's always about getting something. But if you really want to open, like, go and look at what's holding you back from opening, because that is the most vulnerable place for us, in the modern world. That is the most vulnerable place, because sex back in the primal days had one real primal need, was to reproduce, to keep my seed and my lineage going. But now we can have a look online and see all of the, Kama Sutra and the things that are possible. And you have movies like 50 Shades, and people are like, oh, fuck, why can't I have that? You can have that, but you have to be brave. And you have to have conversations, and it is a conversation you have to navigate intelligently, to be able to get across what you're saying without the other person being hurt. But this is another thing. If someone does get hurt, it's usually because there's something to hurt, right? And this is why once you start doing the inner work, you can start to have these conversations, and you're like, oh, fuck, that's true. Well, why is that? And you start looking at yourself, and you start opening your own heart, like Joanne shared before. Once you open your heart and you're not afraid of being hurt, fuck, you'll give. You'll come out of that bedroom and you'll go, what the fuck? But it's this courageous journey of knowing who you are and stripping away everything that you're not. And even that part of the relationship is revealing to both of you something deeper to work on.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of unconfident people around sex, because it's not something that can actually be taught, is it? It's not, and also because a lot of people are so disassociated from their own body. They're out of their body. They're not in their body. They're not ready to feel everything. They're not prepared. They don't know how to. So if you're out there, it is mechanical, it's functional. But when it's in here, and when it's coming from spirit, and when it's coming from your soul, it's magical. And it's uplifting, and it's sacred. So this is why, like, the inner work is so important, to bring all of that back in and to feel so comfortable, even in the most uncomfortable positions within our body. And I don't mean actual positions like with your foot round your neck. I mean in our emotions. I mean, in that gruntiness of when we're going through the dark night of the soul, when we're having our spiritual awakening, when we're healing, and it's so uncomfortable to go out there, to stay in it and to stick with it, because that opens up things like on such a huge level. That's when you start having the Kundalini awakening. That's when you start having the sexual awakening and connecting with that sexual energy that we've all got inside of us. And then it doesn't have to even be thought out. It's not like, oh, there's first base, there's second base, there's third base, because there's no such thing. It's about listening to each other and doing this dance of life. But it creates the inner work's the most important.
Yeah, it's so important. And also too, there's a lot of guilt and shame and things around sex, throughout our life that we experienced, the way our parents spoke about it or things that happened. So we're carrying all that as well. There's a lot of huge attack on masculinity. So men are afraid to open up and let their heart be seen. And then, it's also about being able to go into those masculine and feminine energies, because if you can't submit as a woman and your man isn't committed to his process outside of the room, there's going to be an imbalance there. It's just physics. It's the way the universe works to reveal where we're not free. But if a man's on his mission, on point, on purpose, and in alignment with his heart, fuck, you won't be able to keep your hands off him, and he will penetrate your soul. So, but this is the journey, right? And we're going to learn what we need to learn through relationship, and sexual encounter is a big part of that.
Ooh,
good question.
That was a great question. I bloody love the way these conversations go. I have got one more question, and it says, how do I rebuild trust after it has been broken?
Right. So I'm assuming there must have been a betrayal, perhaps, in the marriage, or there's that's what I'm going to go with. It's quite a broad question.
Yeah.
That's a very hard one to get back. The first thing is you've already broken the trust of yourself by staying once the trust has been broken. So listening to this, I would say this is a betrayal wound, and you've gone through something within the relationship, and a part of you knew it wasn't right at the deepest level, and you've betrayed yourself to stay within that relationship. I could be wrong here. It may not be that level of broken trust, but usually when somebody speaks about it in relationship, it's usually an infidelity of some kind or multiple infidelities. So there's a part of you that the shadow need of being betrayed, and your lesson, what you actually unconsciously called someone in to betray you, to reveal where you're not free. And what you will do is that if you are in alignment with your truth and that doesn't align, you'll actually leave that relationship quite quickly. But it's not as simple when we haven't looked at our unconscious wounding. Now, if you do want to stay together and you do want to work on it, you've got to bring it all out. You've got to bring it all out on the table. You need to see the truth. You need to talk about it. Most people put it in their back pocket, pretend it never happened, and continue on, but it's always lurking over your shoulder. It's like a dark cloud following you around. So if you do want to work on this and rebuild the relationship, you feel like there's something there that, you're going to have to sit down and have the conversation and ask the questions to the things that you need to know, and don't allow it to just be brushed off, or like it wasn't anything, or, it was just this or just that. Otherwise, it will eat you up. It will eat you up for years and years, and you'll never really be able to open in that relationship again. And once again, then you're punishing yourself. You're actually punishing yourself over and over for things that the betrayal would have happened in your childhood at some point. When I speak about betrayal, it's usually like our needs, one of our parents betraying us, not meeting our needs. And so we recreate it, as adults. So, if you want to rebuild it deep, open conversations, a lot of transparency, and that would be the way to be able to work through it. And then, you know, the men or the woman, who both of you, starting to do the work on why you betrayed that person in the first place. Because often the person doing the betraying is actually betraying themselves because they've got the very thing that they actually want.
And it's self-sabotage.
Sabotage. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, no, trust is a funny one, isn't it? And, you know, I'm listening to everything you're saying, and it's beautiful. And I think first and foremost, you need to build the trust back within yourself. That's the first step I would make, because, do you know, anything can happen with anybody. I think as humans, we're capable of anything. I think everybody's capable of having an affair. Everybody's capable of doing the things that they think, oh, I would never do that. That's why I would never do that. What do you mean you would never do it? You don't know unless you're in a situation. So let's take that off the table. But building that trust back within yourself, because, you know, can you trust yourself? Are you fully trusting within you? Are you listening to your needs? Are you listening to your intuition? Are you being led by your soul? Or are you being led by your mind? You know that you can survive if it all breaks apart, but are you telling yourself that, or are you telling yourself you can't live without the other person? It's a huge thing, trust. We talked about our word for the year. About 3 years ago, my word was trust, and I played with this for 365 days. I asked myself every day about what I believe in, where I am, how I trust myself. And, you know, and I'm in a relationship, and at the end of the day, he could go and do anything he wants, but I'm okay because I trust me. And that's how we build trust in the world. That's how we build our trust around us. That's how we create safety within ourselves, by trusting in ourselves. So that would be the first step on the ladder I would take, trusting in yourself while having conversations, while expecting transparency and hoping that that can happen. And at the end of the day, as you said, Stacey, betrayal is about the person who committed the betrayal, not usually about the other person. Unless there's absolutely huge fundamental flaws within the relationship, well, then they're to be worked on as well. And that's how you build trust together, by both of you coming together to work on the issues that are there. That creates trust.
Yeah. And the biggest thing, I keep coming back to this, but, you know, when someone breaks another person's trust in the relationship, they never really broke it. You already knew they were going to do it anyway, unconsciously. But the biggest reason we get stuck is that fear of being abandoned. That primal fear of, oh, fuck, I'm going to be alone and I'm not going to fucking find another person. I might die. Like, you know, this is primal. This is ego, unconscious level. But that's actually bringing into the light what you need to reveal, that you are never alone, what I spoke about before, that you know what, that isn't in alignment with my values. That isn't in alignment, because that could be your one lesson here on this earth, to choose yourself. Because if you stay, you betrayed your own, you actually betrayed yourself. It's always a paradox. It's always the opposite to what we believe. We say that person betrayed me. Yes, they did the act of betrayal, but the real betrayal was you. There was a part of you that knew it was going on. There was a part of you that knew it was going to happen, or there was a part of you that stayed after you found out. And now you're actually angry at yourself because you betrayed yourself at some level around what your actual core values are. You're just not able to embody them right now. If it's smaller, you know, trust is usually, there's not really, it could be, you know, someone was gambling behind your back, but it's the same kind of level of betrayal, right? Or it's all, when we're speaking about trust, there's a level of energy, doesn't always have to be a physical, you know, a fear or something like that, but it's along those lines. It's a deep breaking of my core values that I can't actually hold up right now.
Yeah.
But
Trust.
the way out of it is, like Joanne said, start to cultivate that trust in yourself, because life's a mirror. There was a part of you that didn't trust yourself in the relationship or trust that person, but really you're saying, I don't trust myself. And so if you want to work on it, work on yourself personally, but sit down and really air it out and, start to have transparency in the relationship. And initially, that other person may have to be a little bit more transparent than they want to be, with their phone available or showing bank things or, but also don't punish yourself for another 5, 10, 15 years because you're afraid of being alone and you don't want to lose someone, because if they don't do the work, I will almost guarantee it will happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they've got to find out the reason why they did it. It's as simple as that.
And you never learn the lesson, so it has to happen to you again.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Damn it. Mm. Yeah, and you don't want to live in a fear-based relationship either. You don't want to live in fear, and you don't want to be there wanting to check somebody's phone. You don't want to be having heart palpitations every time they get a text message. You don't want to live like that. And that's why the transparency is so important, and the inner work is so important, because if the person who did the betrayal doesn't know why they did it, yeah, there's the risk that it's going to do it again. If you don't trust yourself and if you are waiting for the betrayal, yes, it's going to happen again. It's like, you don't want to live in fear, though. Fear is just, it grips your heart and it drags down your soul. So,
and the other thing with men is often men didn't receive love unconditionally. So they can only activate when they feel like they're going to lose the love of that woman. So, like for me as a young boy, I'd go and do something stupid like steal something at school, and I'd always get caught. And then I'd get an absolute flogging, and then my mum would love on me. My dad gave me a flogging, and other than that, she wasn't available to me.
Yeah.
So you take this kind of behavior into your relationship. He probably didn't consciously want to betray you, or she didn't consciously want to betray you, but it's like trying to fulfill a need, to push you away, to try and pull you back, to try and get something back. And this is the self-betrayal. And, like I said in a video I shared the other day, man, like if I was talking about the stuff 3 years ago and watching this, I'd say, fuck, that fella's cracked. But when you really get into it and you start to see through the lies, the bullshit conditioning we're all put through in school, the whole white picket fence, marry that person, stay with them till the day you die, no matter what the fuck they do to you, and don't let anyone know what's going on behind those four walls, and suffer in silence, and, retire and die miserable. It runs so deep into our psyche, and then we watch our parents do it. We watched our grandparents do it. So we, monkey see, monkey do. And this is what I believe the awakening is to the truth that I am the generator of my own love. I'm the generator of my own trust, like Joanne said. And if I generate that which I'm generating, I will receive.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to some guy the other day who's been married for like 27 years, and he was, where he was just having a little bit of a moan about things, and this is happening. I said, well, you do know it can be different, it can be, this is just how it is. This is what marriage looks like. This is fine. I was just like, okay. Because, I don't coach people unless they pay me now, because I used to try and go into coach mode a lot of the time. It just automatically happens. It just rolls off the tongue. But I just was like, okay. And just like, isn't that just such a shame? But you're right. It's these programmings that run so deep, and these belief systems, which, why are we believing that shit, that's how marriage should look? Who wants to live in misery? But for some reason, we are programmed to partner with suffering and misery. That's what the Great Awakening is about, because we are over that. We are here to thrive, and we can thrive in adversity. We can thrive as life throws things at us, and we have a decision on how we react to it. But you have to do this inner work first. Simple as.
This is, you touched on something so powerful. What the Great Awakening really is about is raising our consciousness out of a primal consciousness that no longer serves us into a consciousness that can keep up with the level of advancement in our modern world. When we look back, we have hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, living in tribes with primal threats and just a basic way of living. You would have stayed in the same tribe of 30 to 100 people to the day you died. You never moved camp. You would have married someone within the tribe, and it was always this deep connectedness. There was primal threats. It was a very simple society. But the evolution and the speed, of the modern world in the last 50 years, we've only been living in this modern world for around 50 years, right? And the last 10 to 20, the evolution of technology has advanced so quickly that our egos have advanced too. And so what we're having to do is we're having to undo all of the old primal so we can come into a new level of consciousness to be able to function in this modern world. And now you can see that the modern world is no longer about survival. But the primal brain hasn't figured that out yet. And so we're still trying to survive in a modern world where we can actually thrive. All of us can see the ability to thrive in relationships, financially, whatever it is that you want to do. And that's why I keep speaking to it, is that I don't believe any human being is going to get out of this unscathed. You're either going to go on the journey, which will be, like I shared the other day, one of the toughest things I've ever done, but I wouldn't take it back. Or you're going to suffer an immense suffering in silence, addiction, mental health issues, suicide, numbness, broken down relationships. And you've got to choose the either way is going to be painful, but on the other side is a great light. But you've got to go through the journey, because you're not going to get off this without going on the hero's journey.
Yeah. And either way, it's going to be hard, but you choose your hard, don't you? Choose your hard. Do you want to choose your hard where you're going to thrive, or do you want to choose your hard where you're just going to suffer and continue to suffer for the rest of your life? Because you are, and you will. It's as simple as that. So choose your hard. And if you want it to be this way, come with me and Stacy. If you want to go that way, we'll send you love.
Yeah. And you'll be back. I'll tell you, you'll be back in another 6 or 12 months. You'll be back. And, a lot of men say to me, oh, I'm not ready to deal with my shit yet. And I say to them, fuck, you're dealing with it every fucking day. It's following you around every single day, and you're not in control of it. Just turn around and face it, and go towards what is the most discomfort, and the one area that you don't want to go towards. Until you go towards it, you're going to suffer. You're going to loop around in patterns of high, low, binge, purge, good, bad, self-sabotage till the day that you leave this planet. And, you don't have to go through that.
No, you don't. You really don't. Well, that was juicy. That was a great conversation yet again. 3 great questions. So thank you, listeners. We are loving your questions, and send some more in, because we're 1 more week, and then it's a summer break for a few weeks. Then we'll be back mid to end of January. So send us in your questions, because the divorce rates and breakup rates do go up this time of year, and we're here for you. We're here to help you through, rather than to, you don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to suffer on your own.
And just remember this: if you don't resolve it in this relationship, you'll have to resolve it in the next one, or the next one, or the next one, because you'll be in the same relationship. The person will just have a different face.
Yes, they do, because I've been married a couple of times, and I've had a few boyfriends, and he's actually totally right. And until you change your ways, you'll end up with the same bonehead that you've been married to or been with before, and you might as well not do that. I'm out the other side, and I'm doing it differently, and it feels great.
That's awesome. I love it, Joanne. I love it.
Oh, thank you. And we will see you next week.
See you next week, guys.